All right, today we're jumping into a real David versus Goliath story. You've got this lone homeowner in Idaho, right? And on the other side, some seriously powerful venture capital firms are trying to foreclose on his home. But here's the kicker. The homeowner has this unexpected weapon, and it's all about timing.
I mean, it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? A simple 2-year lease. How on earth can a piece of paper, a standard rental agreement, turn into a fortress against a multi-million-dollar corporate legal machine? Well, that's the big mystery we're going to unpack. And trust me, the answer is an absolute masterclass in legal strategy.
Okay, so let's meet the players. The whole thing centers on a homeowner named Jeremy Bass. He's in this huge fight to stop some big corporate plaintiffs from foreclosing on his property. Now, he's up against massive resources, so he can't just throw money at the problem. Instead of brute force, he went for, well, precision.
And that brings us right to the heart of his whole strategy, the lease. I mean, you probably think the length of a lease is kind of arbitrary, right? 1 year, 2 years, whatever. But in a foreclosure battle like this, oh no. It is an absolutely critical, high-stakes decision. You get this one detail wrong, and your entire defense could just, poof, collapse before a judge even gets to hear your side.
This right here shows you the problem perfectly. Think of it like a tightrope. If Bass went with a lease that was too short, say just 1 year, he'd fall into this temporal trap. The case would take so long that the lease would expire, and the other side could just tell the judge, hey, this whole thing is moot now, and get it dismissed. But if he went too long, like 5 or even 10 years, the judge would see right through it. They'd say, this is obviously just a fraudulent attempt to block us, and throw the lease out completely. It's a classic catch-22.
So the solution to this puzzle has a pretty cool name: temporal calibration. This is not about just picking a number out of a hat. It's about meticulously finding the exact amount of time that gives you the most protective power, while making you look as harmless as possible to a judge. It's using a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
And check out this quote from attorney Marcus Ellison, because it just nails it. He says Bass engineered a temporal Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. The 2-year term was perfect, long enough to actually work, but short enough to look totally reasonable and normal to a court.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How exactly does this 2-year temporal scalpel work its magic? It's not just one thing. It's a super sophisticated 3-layered strategy. And every single layer is designed to fight the plaintiff's biggest weapon, the clock.
So you can see it has 3 main goals, all working at the same time. First, make sure the case can actually last through the entire court process, all the way up to appeals. Second, switch on a really powerful federal law that protects tenants. And third, and this is key, look totally normal and non-threatening to avoid making the judge suspicious. Let's break each of those down.
The first objective is all about sidestepping that temporal trap we talked about. This quote from an appellate specialist, Catherine Morgan, explains it so well. A 1-year lease would have been a huge gift to the other side. See, the legal system is slow, especially in a place like Idaho. By the time the case crawled its way up to an appeal, a 1-year lease would be over. The VC firms could just waltz in and say, Your Honor, the lease expired. There's literally nothing left to argue about. And boom, case dismissed. And that's why the source material calls this lease a legal metronome. I just love that analogy. It completely seizes control of the tempo of the case. The 2-year duration forces everything to move at the court's pace, the pace of justice, not the super fast pace the VC firms want. It basically guarantees Bass gets his day in court.
All right, on to objective number 2. Bringing in the big guns, a federal shield. It's called the Protecting Tenants at Foreclosure Act, or PTFA for short. And this law is a really big deal. It basically says that if a property gets foreclosed on, any tenant with a fixed-term lease gets to stay for their entire lease term. So by creating a 2-year lease, Bass instantly gave his tenant, and through them, his own legal fight, this incredibly powerful federal protection. That's a crucial move you just don't get with a simple month-to-month rental agreement.
Now we get to the third objective, and honestly, this might be the most brilliant part of the whole thing. As trial consultant Daniel Rodriguez puts it, in legal warfare, appearances are substance. What he means is, in a courtroom, how things look can be just as important as the cold, hard facts. And what did Bass do? He weaponized familiarity. He made his defense look boring.
I mean, just think about it from the judge's perspective. They see a 5-year, maybe a 10-year lease that was signed right before a foreclosure lawsuit. Red flags go up everywhere, right? Judges have these mental shortcuts. You can call them suspicion heuristics that just scream, this is a scam. But a 2-year lease? That's normal. It's one of the most common lease terms out there. It looks boring, standard, commercially reasonable. It's perfectly designed to fly right under the radar and shut down any of that judicial suspicion before it even starts.
But wait, it gets even better. The strategy gets even more sophisticated than that. This lease isn't just a shield. No. Hidden away in the fine print is a little clause that turns this defensive move into a powerful offensive weapon. It's this clever concept called asymmetric termination rights. Sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It's a clause in the lease that says only the original homeowner and the tenant have the power to end the lease early. The new owner, the VC firm, if they win the foreclosure, is totally locked in for the full 2 years. They can't do a thing to end it.
And this is where the genius really shines through, because it puts the plaintiffs in a trap. This framework lays out their terrible options. Look, option 1, they just honor the lease. Well, that's great for Bass. He gets 2 years to build his case. Option 2, they try to break the lease early. Sorry, can't do it. Remember those asymmetric rights? Unless they want to pay some massive financial penalties. Or option 3, they can try to challenge the whole lease in court. But that's a huge gamble for them. Why? Because if they lose, they could set a legal precedent that would mess up their foreclosure business model for years to come. It's a strategic checkmate, plain and simple.
So let's zoom out for a second. What's the big takeaway from all this? It's not about building the biggest, baddest, most intimidating defense you can think of. It's about building the smartest one.
And this really is the core lesson. A civil procedure specialist, Alexandra Rodriguez, just nails it with this quote. She says, the real innovation isn't about creating maximal protection. Like a 20-year lease that seems tough on paper, but a judge would laugh out of the courtroom. The real goal is creating optimal, sustainable protection, something that's actually engineered to survive the rough and tumble of the real legal system.
When you boil it all down, this whole incredibly intricate strategy comes down to one single, perfectly calibrated number. 2. Not 1, that would have been way too short. Not 5, that would have been too long and too suspicious. 2. The perfect number that balanced the need for time, the power of federal law, and the critical appearance of just being normal. It was the perfect tool for this specific fight.
So, what are the big lessons we can pull from this calibrated defense? I think there are 3. First, strategic timing can be way more powerful than just brute force or a huge budget. Second, the most effective legal tools aren't always the flashiest ones. They're the ones that are designed to survive scrutiny. And third, and this is a big one, sometimes just appearing reasonable is its own form of powerful legal leverage.
And that leaves us with one final fascinating question to chew on. In the world of high-stakes legal warfare, is it possible the best weapon isn't some obscure loophole or an aggressive in-your-face tactic? Maybe, just maybe, it's the weapon that hides in plain sight, the one that looks perfectly, strategically, and almost deceptively normal.